I have been asked quite a few times who I'm going to be voting for in the 2008 presidential election. Now that Ron Paul is no longer running, I will not be able to vote for him, so I would like to choose the candidate who is closest to Dr. Paul's ideas and closest to my own views about freedom, free markets, technological progress, and individual rights. And so, really, for me, it comes down to two choices. Either Bob Barr of the Libertarian Party, or Chuck Baldwin of the Constitution Party. I am certainly not going to be voting for either Barack Obama or John McCain. I think Barack Obama might be somewhat marginally better than McCain because he does not threaten to start even more wars throughout the world, and he probably would not be in favor of reinstituting the military draft. However, that is small consolation considering the kinds of socialist interventions Obama would bring about at home. Anyway, I understand that a third-party candidate is probably not going to win in this election, but I see my vote as a manifestation of my principles, and an attempt to make these principles more visible by showing the political establishment and anybody else who cares that indeed there does exist some support for these alternatives to the two establishment parties. Now, why do I prefer Bob Barr to Chuck Baldwin? Especially given the fact that I greatly respect Dr. Baldwin, and I've published many of his articles in my online magazine, The Rational Argumentator. I think he has a lot of importance to say about freedom, and he has done great work in promoting it. I do, however, have major concerns about Baldwin's stance on immigration, and I'd like to compare this stance with Bob Barr's to show you why I favor Bob Barr. Now, we'll let the candidates speak for themselves. Bob Barr, on his website, lays out his immigration platform. It's quite reasonable. He says, Republicans and Democrats in Congress and the White House have failed to adequately address the services and growing problem of illegal immigration. In essence, America has too many illegal immigrants and too few legal ones, particularly those with unique entrepreneurial, professional, and scientific skills. Now, I agree with that. I myself am a legal immigrant. I recently became a United States citizen after a lengthy 11-year process fraught with bureaucratic incompetency, and I can tell you firsthand just how diseased and corrupt the immigration system is. Corrupt not in the sense of malice, but in the sense of having so much Byzantine legislation in place for preventing good, competent persons from entering the country and gaining the full rights of citizenship. So, Bob Barr does not wish to close the border completely. He does want some kind of enforcement against what he calls massive illegal border crossing, but at the same time, he would like to make the legal immigration system more reasonable, more straightforward, less time-consuming. And that, I think, would, in one blow, reduce the number of illegal immigrants and increase the number of legal ones, because many of those who would otherwise have immigrated illegally, seeing a more reasonable immigration system, maybe one that takes 3 to 5 years instead of 11 years for full citizenship, would be encouraged to take the legal route. And that would be excellent. Now, furthermore, Bob Barr, I think, sees to the heart of the current illegal immigration problem. It's not a problem of people crossing borders. It's a problem of some people crossing the United States border in order to live off of the American taxpayer by claiming services such as welfare, Social Security, Medicare, public education, public health care, services that shouldn't exist at all, in my opinion. But certainly, they take these services, some of them aim at doing so deliberately. And this must stop, because the American taxpayer is essentially subsidizing a movement across the border that would not have happened otherwise. There are other concerns with illegal immigration, such as property damage done by some illegal immigrants to the property of ranchers on the border. That needs to stop. That property needs to be better protected than it currently is. And Bob Barr would be in favor of both of those. Furthermore, he explicitly addresses in his platform the access to free public health care at public hospitals that many illegal immigrants enjoy and deliberately try to exploit by coming over to this country. That certainly needs to stop. And furthermore, as Ron Paul has proposed in Congress several times, Bob Barr questions the granting of birthright citizenship to the children of illegal immigrants. Once again, I think a sensible policy to deter those who try to come into this country and think, well, I'll have a child within its borders and then I'll automatically become a citizen or have legal status just because my child will have been born within the United States. So, getting rid of some of those incentives for abusing the system might be a deterrent to some of the negative effects of illegal immigration. I don't want to characterize all illegal immigrants as bad, though, because they certainly are not. Many of them do not exploit government systems. Many of them are hardworking. They earn money doing important work. They contribute to the economy. They contribute to extending the division of labor. They certainly do jobs I wouldn't want to do. And so I welcome their presence here, and I believe that many of them ought to become legal United States residents and citizens, even though they might have entered the country illegally. I don't think Bob Barr has an official stance on that, but he would probably not be 100% hostile to the idea. So, compare that to Chuck Baldwin. Chuck Baldwin promises to close the American border. And on his website, he highlights his stance on immigration. This is something that is very important to him. And he boasts about how Roy Beck of Numbers USA, which is an organization for reducing the amount of immigrants to the country, both legal and illegal, rates him. And Roy Beck rates Baldwin as excellent in all respects, whereas other candidates don't come anywhere close. And what is it that Baldwin supports? Well, let's look. No amnesty. Attrition through enforcement pushes illegal aliens back home. Remember when I said that some of the hard-working illegal immigrants who haven't exploited government services should be given legal residency and perhaps U.S. citizenship? Well, Bob Barr might possibly support that. Chuck Baldwin opposes it categorically. Furthermore, he wants to reduce legal immigration, protect Americans from mass foreign worker competitions, congestion, and sprawl. I'm afraid that is in defiance of the laws of economics, which talk about benefits from comparative advantage, the division of labor, the free movement of people and capital across borders. And Baldwin does not seem to consider that competition and immigration benefit our economy. They do not undermine it. And they, in the long run, produce more jobs and better jobs and higher standards of living for everybody living in the United States. Now, furthermore, Chuck Baldwin does support no birthright citizenship for illegal aliens, so there he agrees with Bob Barr. But one disturbing thing he supports is mandatory workplace verification. So the government now has greater power, even greater than the vast surveillance power it already enjoys, to intrude into workplaces and to impose its bureaucracy on them, which would be greatly time-consuming and inconveniencing to many legal employees, native-born or immigrant, in order to check that a particular workplace has not hired illegal immigrants. This is not my idea of a sound policy. This is just asking for more big government. I will have further critiques of Baldwin's proposals in a following presentation.